What's going on, Effect? It's Wolf with the Quarantine, and this is Kickstart Your Week. So if you're not familiar with what Kickstart Your Week is, this is my weekly show that I cover the previous week's Kickstarters that I thought looked interesting. Now, there's no hard, fast rules. It's completely biased, and it's really what caught my eye and I thought looked neat. That's really all it is, and things that I thought you guys might find interesting. Now, with that said, there are so many Kickstarters that come out every single week. It's not realistic for me to be able to cover all of them. So what I do is I narrow it down to my top 5. Sometimes I don't even make it to 5, but that's kind of the rule that I do set for myself. Other than that, it could be anything that makes it catch my eye, whether I like the artwork or whatever. I skim over it, kind of get an idea, and talk about it here. Now, if you do like this style of show, check out the Gamerati. I have a link down in the description that'll take you directly over to their site. I do a weekly podcast with them as well. And we basically, it's kind of like this, but we all choose one, and then we talk about why we like that one and, why we think that's, the better or our favorite Kickstarter for that week. Then once everything's said and done, I give an arbitrary award of my favorite Kickstarter of the week, and I talk usually a little bit deeper as to why I chose that one. But now that I'm done rambling, let's just head on over. Alrighty, so kicking this off, we're going to talk about the Helios Expanse. Now, this one claims to be a 4X game that can be played in under an hour, which there seems to be an awful lot about those, but then I never hear too much about them, so kind of take that with a grain of salt. But this theme of it, I'm a big theme or sucker for sci-fi and space theme, which this has both of. There are a couple things on it though that kind of throw up some red flags that make me wonder, questionable design choices. The first one being, from what I can tell, the standees of like your ships and stuff are standees that show miniatures on them. They're not painted, they're just gray minis with like a really pretty background. So I don't know if that's if it's like a stand-in or prototype. I couldn't find anywhere that talked about that it actually comes with the minis, and I thought that was kind of a really weird design choice. So that was kind of a little whatever there. But the game is apparently an action programming area control game, and I do like action programming because they it can be very hysterical sometimes. But then on top of that, the board is a double-sided board that has different setups, which is another thing that kind of made me wonder. That was kind of an odd design choice as well, because it's a 4X. There's the explore aspect, and if the board is always going to be the same or one of two different types of boards, I'm just kind of curious on where the Explorer comes from. But looking at the components, looking at everything, it does look like it's going to be a really cool game. Next one I'm going to talk about here is the Small Star Empires 2nd Edition plus 2 expansions. Now, I've never played the Small Star Empires. It looked interesting. It's one of those ones I never got around to picking up or backing, for that matter. Because if I'm not mistaken, I remember seeing this on Kickstarter at some point. But this is, of course, the 2nd edition, so you can pick that up. But you also get 4 new races with one of the expansions that adds like conflict to the game. Because it looks like the base game was an area control game in space, is really what it is. You're trying to gather, colonize as much as you can and everything. There wasn't a whole lot of player interaction from what I can gather. This one of the 2 expansions, adds conflict, where you're actually fighting each other and you have these big war bases that you can move around, which looked really cool. And then the other expansion adds a research mechanic where you can use this new material that you have discovered. You can use that to put towards research, which gives you technology cards that you can then use as special powers. But overall, the aesthetic of the game is really nice and crisp and clean. I kind of like it. Doesn't look like the footprint is going to be too big either, and I'm definitely curious about this. Money permitting, I may throw in on it. Then we have Zombicide Invader. There's not really a whole lot I need to say about this. It's Zombicide in space. Now, I'm not a big fan of the original Zombicide. In fact, I actually hate the original Zombicide. I hate the stupid shooting mechanics. I've heard the new one, was it Black Plague, I think it's called. I've heard that fixes a lot of my problems that I did have with the original Zombicide, but it's a steep hole to jump into. Because if you didn't kickstart it, you only get 30% of the game, because it's a cool mini or not game. so go figure. But the other thing is, it's a lot of money to dump on a game that I didn't like the original and what it's based off of anyways. So this one, though, kind of more appeals to me because, again, I'm a sucker for space and I'm a sucker for sci-fi. And this one is basically Zombicide in space, and I don't know why they kept it Zombicide. I guess for the fans, I guess. But you're not actually fighting zombies, you're fighting aliens, basically. And you have these different, the indoor areas. When you go outside, you're actually in the vacuum of space. So you have to make sure you have air canisters before you come out. Though there's one thing that I thought was really stupid that I don't really understand why they did that. Like, I get they needed to for a mechanic standpoint, maybe something new to kind of shake everything up. But you can't shoot your guns outside in space. Like, you have to only use energy weapons or some other kind of weapon. But projectile weaponry doesn't work in space, which realistically it does. It actually works effectively better because if it's a vacuum, there's nothing to slow that round down, and effectively it's just going to continue going forever until something affects it. So I thought that was a stupid design choice. I'm not really sure why you can't shoot projectile weaponry, but whatever. That's not how space works. But you know, if you're a fan of Zombicide, you like the overall system of Zombicide, you're probably definitely going to want to check this one out. It definitely piqued my interest purely for the sci-fi theme. Next up is Terminator Genisys Rise of the Resistance. Now, this is based off of that terrible, terrible movie that came out a couple years ago. But the game looks like it actually might be pretty interesting. You're playing as the survivors in the future. I guess like in the beginning of the movie where they were, and I've kind of repressed a lot of the movie. If I'm not mistaken, like in the beginning, they're getting to the time travel machine. Spoilers if you didn't know. They're trying to get to the time travel machine to send back, Kyle Reese, I think his name was, so they can send it back to help Sarah Connor and, blah, 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 whole first movie. And you're fighting that battle. You are playing the survivors fighting to get to the time travel machine, which I thought was kind of interesting. I do like the future part of Terminator a lot, and I feel like people try to utilize it, but they don't do it very well. I'm hoping this one does. It looks really, really interesting. It has some kind of weird dice allocation system that I don't really delve too deep into how to play videos, but just kind of skimming over everything. It doesn't really break into it. You like roll the dice and then you assign like this to this piece of gear and this to this piece of gear, and I'm guessing the higher the number, the more effective that is, which I like because I don't mind dice in the game as long as there's choices I can make with those dice or like mitigation or something. So the fact that I can roll and then go, okay, what do I want to do with these dice? And I can choose, okay, well, I really need to do this, but with the high there, I don't really need to do this as much, so let's do this here, and stuff like that I like. And the last game on my list today is The Faceless. Now, The Faceless is a really cool looking game that uses magnets, aka witchcraft, in order to have this really interesting mechanic where there's a monster or something that has been going around town, have been kidnapping and killing children, or you assume killing children. They just vanish. And it's told like it's like an old wives' tale or a children's horror story, something like that. And it's always children that are missing. And you wind up, you're a band of kids that are trying to stop your friend from being basically kidnapped by whatever this monster thing is. And you find the other kids, and they are all just like, they're half animal things and like creepy masked people and stuff like that. And they're helping the bad guys. So all of your pieces have your human side, and then you can flip it around, and then it's got like your demon side or whatever it's called. And then you have like a positive and negative magnet on the bottom. Sorry about that, my alarm went off. The piece that's on the bottom of the board is actually a compass. So as you're moving it around, depending on, from what I can tell, depending on where the strength of the magnets are at, it's going to point it in different areas, and that's like the direction the piece goes. And then all the while you're moving your pieces around the outskirts. And I thought that looked really, really cool. It's an interesting mechanic. It might just be a dumb gimmick, but, I like stuff like that. Stuff that kind of breaks the mold, because if that's awesome, then that could wind up taking hold like, deck builders did not what is it, 10, 15, whatever years ago. So, it was kind of a stupid thing, and it took off and wound up being big. So, who knows? Again, that looks really, really cool. And those are my 5 games for this week. So, for my arbitrary Kickstart Your Week award that I really need to find a better graphic for, and I keep saying that, but I never get around to doing it because I'm busy and all that jazz. So again, if anybody in the comments is good with that and would like to make me a cool little emblem here that I can put, cool, I'd appreciate it, but this one works for now, whatever. But my arbitrary award is going to go to The Faceless. I really, really like this concept. They're using witchcraft and magic in order to allow the compass and magnets to all work together. And it could be just ridiculous and not work very well, or it could be really, really cool and make you have to kind of think outside the box of how you're positioning your people versus how the bad guys are positioning each other and stuff like that. I thought that was so cool. The one problem that I can definitely see is if there's like metal anywhere around your table, you might have a problem with these magnets. I also question how strong these magnets are going to be able to affect the compass. But, I mean, it's still generating a magnetic field, so I guess it doesn't need to be that powerful. I don't know. Haven't messed too much around with witchcraft and compasses together. So, but overall, the artwork looks really, really cute, really cool as well. Along with the minis are awesome. The fact that on one side they're one look, the other side they're like more not demonic, but more like Chucky scary doll kind of thing. I just thought that really, really cool. Everything in it screams quality and like a lot of thought went into it. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this show. If you'd like to help support the channel, because YouTube took my funding away, I will have a link down here in the description to take you over to my Patreon. If you're afraid of commitment, as I know some of you guys are, I do have a tip jar down in below as well. It's a one-time donation with no commitment. Otherwise, if you're new here, stick around. I could definitely use your support, and I'll see you guys next time in the quarantine.